Johnson, and the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Bridenstine, the chairman of the Environment Subcommittee, is recognized for an opening statement.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. To remind folks, today's hearing focuses on the EPA's final rule announced earlier this month to lower the national ambient air quality standards for ozone to 70 parts per billion, down from the current standard of 75 parts per billion. Nothing in today's hearing is regarding tobacco necessarily, as far as I know. This hearing comes at a critical time as we must carefully review the science, impact, and achievability of this final regulation, a regulation with heavy compliance costs but questionable environmental benefits. Across the country, ozone levels and emissions for volatile organic compounds have been reduced significantly over the past few decades. My home state of Oklahoma is among those constantly working to improve air quality. Despite this, it is concerning that the EPA is proposing to tighten the standard, and I will remind my colleagues that the existing standard, set in 2008, has yet to be fully implemented, and the guidance for state implementation plans was only released this past February by the EPA. States must be given a chance to comply with the existing standard before being imposed another onerous set of standards that are not achievable. This year, this committee has had several hearings to examine this complicated and massive regulation. Here are some of the important facts that we have learned from these hearings. Number one, just one study consisting of 31 participants is being used as the main scientific justification of the costliest regulation in the history of the country, according to Dr. Alan Lafon, a leader in ozone research. Number two, witnesses testified that natural background ozone contributes a significant amount to the observed total ozone concentrations, and with this proposed standard, background or natural ozone may become the main reason areas across the U.S. exceed the standard. Further, there are even many national parks in the West which regularly will exceed the new standard based on natural ozone. Contributions from wildfires to the ozone level are considered a part of background. Tightening the existing ozone standards may cause even more unintentional fires of greater intensity as the use of prescribed controlled fires may be limited. This has serious implications, especially to rural and remote areas. While EPA claims that there are mechanisms to deal with background ozone, EPA has yet to provide details. This is especially true regarding implementation of its exceptional event rule demonstrations. According to testimony of Ms. Kara Kessler from Wyoming's Department of Environmental Quality, quote, Wyoming has submitted 5 stratospheric intrusion demonstrations. They submitted 5. 1 demonstration has been concurred with, and 4 have yet to be even acted on by the EPA. This is an unacceptable track record, and it is imposing costs on people that can't do anything about the background ozone level. Number 5, rural areas will be hit especially hard by the Clean Air Act's transportation conformity requirements, which could mean withholding of federal highway funds if an area is in non-attainment. Again, this is bureaucratic bullying by the federal government against the states, and it needs to stop. According to the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, quote, rural areas do not have the resources to achieve sufficient reductions of pollutants. The proposed action would be detrimental to social and economic development for rural areas across the state of Oklahoma, unquote. Beyond these concerns, it remains troubling to me that those who will bear this regulation's compliance costs may also suffer a decline in their health status. Not surprisingly, the EPA did not include the premature deaths caused by the loss of disposable income when considering the true impact of this standard. Furthermore, millions of senior citizens living on fixed incomes and low-income Americans may be forced to choose between medications, paying for heat, or paying for their food. Moreover, other existing and proposed EPA regulations, such as the proposed Clean Power Plan, will further exacerbate the negative economic impact. This hearing is critical because Congress has the obligation to ensure the EPA adheres to the intent of the Clean Air Act, that the science behind any rule is sound, and that in the totality of the impact of any rule is taken into account. We need to understand the totality of the impact. Before I yield back, I would like to submit a few documents for the record. The first is a group of letters from state and local officials opposing the rule. The next is a map showing that nearly the entire state of Oklahoma, even some of the more rural areas, will be in non-attainment. This would be devastating to my state, which is already working very hard on its own and has been successful, as a matter of fact, to reduce ozone. I want to thank each of the witnesses for coming this morning, and I look forward to hearing their testimony. I yield back the balance of my time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bridenstine.